Hello and welcome to Reporters, the magazine which brings you some of our best stories from our correspondents around the world. Well, this week we take you to Somalia and the capital, Mogadishu. Somalia is a devastated country. Decades of conflict and failed efforts for peace have left the East African nation facing desperate poverty and lawlessness, and without a functioning government. Well, today the country has a transitional leadership led by President Sheikh Sharif Sheikh Ahmed, but it's extremely fragile, and every day government forces clash with fighters from inside and outside Somalia who want to topple it. Well, African Union peacekeepers are trying to help supporting the government and fighting insurgents, but they face a grueling uphill battle. France 24's Franck Berrier brings us this special report.
Off the coast of Mogadishu, ships spared by pirates wait their turn to unload their cargo. On shore, African Union soldiers fire practice rounds. Trained by a private consultant, these peacekeeping soldiers protect the Somalian capital's port. Here, more than anywhere, it's important to be a good shot.
Well, it's important. I say it's important, yeah.
Why?
Well, if you're getting shot at, then you need to be able to return fire accurately so that you shoot the people that are shooting at you and not innocent people. So accuracy is important.
Especially in Mogadishu?
Especially in Mogadishu, yeah, that's right.
Today, these soldiers start off from the airport. Their mission is to stock up the water and food supplies of the peacekeeping forces. It's an extremely dangerous task. 60 homemade bombs were discovered along this 4-kilometer stretch last year. These soldiers are here with AMISOM, or the African Union peacekeeping mission in Somalia. Commissioned by the United Nations, they have been here for the past 2 years, reinforcing the transitional government. They have become a prime target for the insurgents. Since the beginning of their mission, over 40 soldiers have been killed.
The main problem within this access is almost around this area is we always get shooters from nowhere, the other end, this end, the other end, like that.
Securing the water supply is a tedious task. To reduce the risks, travel has been limited, and forts have been set up all along the route.
It's quiet today?
Okay.
It's quiet?
Quiet.
Quiet. No fighting?
No fighting.
No shooting?
No shooting.
Quiet.
Quiet.
A relative calm. Just yesterday, a car bomb went off not far from here, killing 7 police officers. In a major undertaking, soldiers stop every car along this route. The 4th kilometer is a strategic intersection in the capital. It leads to the port, the airport, and the president's palace. Whoever controls this intersection controls Mogadishu. Although Somalian police officers are charged with monitoring the area, military force is necessary. AMISOM has already pushed back heavily armed attacks.
That is Villa Somalia.
And the insurgents?
The insurgents, you see, the other place, that good town there, Bakara, where there are some masts. That is Bakara, and it is their stronghold.
On the roof of this advanced point, sandbags provide limited protection for these Ugandan soldiers. To limit their losses, these mine-clearing specialists are here to reinforce the AU soldiers. This Nambian expert served for 4 years in Iraq and another 4 in Afghanistan. In Mogadishu, the few white people keep a low profile.
It's very difficult, very difficult. There's no white people here. So that's why you guys must keep a low profile here. When you don't go out, don't let the people see you. Because the moment they know there's white people, then they start murdering.
Outside, they're protected by an armored vehicle. They have to secure the route leading to the presidential palace. The crew is worried. Groups of armed men drive by on pickup trucks. Dressed as civilians, they are the government's militia. The convoy takes the most dangerous stretch of the road. In the wrong direction, full speed ahead. The buildings of this area have been devastated by 20 years of war. In Mogadishu, it's not just the houses that have been left in ruins. Along this road, the danger is the IEDs, improvised explosive devices, homemade bombs. Not even the soldiers can hide their fear.
Automatically.
Why?
As a human being, you have to be afraid.
As a soldier?
As a soldier, I can't be afraid of it because I'm trained to do so.
But it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
An African Union soldier opens the presidential palace gates. AMISOM is also charged with protecting the president. They check everyone who visits his villa. Just 1 week ago, the insurgents launched an offensive against the presidential palace. The peacekeeping soldiers were the only forces left to stop the attack.
We have some snipers, insurgents shooting at us. So there is only if you expose yourself, you may get injured by the stray bullets.
Although the windows are not bulletproof, the villa is the only place where the president is relatively safe. He receives visitors in his office, and he rarely leaves.
There is some shooting.
Yes.
Yes.
Like most Somalians, the young president is used to war. He knows that his power is tenuous and that the threat of radical Islam militants is fierce.
It's Somalia and the entire African continent which is at risk if the international community does not support the peace process. You could imagine what would happen if the combatants, supported by Al-Qaeda, were able to take over the country.
A war without a name. The fighting in Somalia is also a mind game. The insurgents, also known as the Shababs, call and harass the soldiers over the phone. The mission spokesperson gets hundreds of calls a day.
720 calls per day. I think out of these, maybe the important ones would be 20. The rest, I would call them junk calls. They don't have any meaning. They are insults, they are threats, they are blackmailing, things of that nature.
The major refuses to change his number. He refuses to cave under the pressure.
The people of Somalia are hostages. They are hostages of the threats of their own other Somalis, the faction that is holding arms. So they believe that because they have, oppressed and intimidated, threatened all the Somalis' submission, they seem to believe that even us as AMISOM will be pressurized, would be intimidated, would be blackmailed, would be threatened to withdraw.
But no time to think it over. The soldiers carry on, hitting the road again. This time they're headed to the port. Dozens of trucks are being loaded with sacks of cereal. The police keeps watch, but it's the African peacekeepers who allow the humanitarian aid into Somalia. AMISOM is responsible for port security. However, it can't oversee the distribution of supplies.
The refugees' food, when they took here, they didn't go there completely. Some of them will pass to markets, but 45% the refugees may got.
The humanitarian organizations left Somalia a long time ago. It's too dangerous here. The big mosque is the only building under construction. The soldiers have to leave before nightfall. It's their last patrol of the day. The old military academy in the north of the city. The Burundi battalion has set up camp here, and it frequently falls under insurgent fire.
It depends. We're hit by anywhere between 3 and 10 shells per day. There's the rest of a bombed car.
A combination of a suicide bomber and a car full of explosives left 11 Burundi soldiers dead. There's one Somalian market outside of the base. All the other small businesses have closed.
We see that Somalians do not have friends.
You can't be friends with Somalians. That's why no Somalian can enter the base. We changed. If not, we have to work with Somalians during our mission. But they take advantage of our peacekeeping mission to kill our soldiers.
Since the violence has escalated, the Burundi soldiers rarely leave their base. They avoid cutting down trees around their position in order to stay hidden from surrounding insurgents. This last attack taught the AU peacekeeping soldiers a lesson. From now on, a guard sniffs everyone who enters the Ugandan base for explosives. The private consultants know the insurgents' methods all too well. They get their tactics from Iraq and Afghanistan.
2 weeks ago, we had this one big explosion where there were 17 Al-Shabaab people killed, and they were busy training. They went to a house where they got some training, and something went wrong in the training, you know, because they were building a car bomb, okay, to use in town against the forces. And in the process of training, something went wrong, and it detonated and killed 17 people, 17 potential bombers, you know.
It's hard to keep count of all of the dead and all of the injured since the latest offensive against the government. Those who have been injured have to do what they can to survive. The overflowing hospitals lack supplies. There isn't even proper operating equipment. Civilians and combatants are separated only by a curtain, and it's hard to know who is who.
They are all soldiers which injured the fight which is going in Somalia, especially in Mogadishu.
The stretchers are carrying officers and soldiers from the same unit, all injured in combat.
We can't tell the difference between our troops and the Shabab. Everyone is dressed the same. We're all mixed up in battle. We don't even know who hit us.
For the most part, it's not the first time these patients have been injured, and most promise to return to the fight as soon as they can pick up a weapon again.
We have the same hospital for everyone, while the Shabab have their own private emergency room. That's why there are so many of us. The government should build a hospital for the soldiers.
One overheated tent, a few doctors, and the African soldiers who do what they can with what they have. The English has financed the renovation of the building, but it's not yet up and running.
So the accommodation here is not decent, not fit to be a hospital. Yes. We need, that means accommodation, we are talking of beds, mattresses, blankets, and then even a building where they can be, just like this one here. You know, African Union is very poor, it can't afford most of these things.
Please watch up! Big up! Put it! Mali, Ragaza!
The United Nations has prolonged the African Union's mission another 8 months. Of the 8,000 soldiers that were supposed to be sent, only 4,300 are here. No one wants to keep the peace in Somalia.
Well, joining me in the studio is the reporter behind that story, Franck Berrier. Franck, you've travelled to Somalia several times over the years to cover the story there. How has it changed for you?
Well, there's an image which is quite impressive when you're reaching Mogadishu. It's the fact that absolutely no one is living within the city. 2 years ago, a year ago, you had Ethiopians. There were a major battle struggle within the city. Each and every time there was a quiet. People went out to the market, people were in the streets, there was electricity, water, it was working. And now, when you are on the streets of Mogadishu, in the boroughs where there was lots of people before, most of the shops I've seen open a year or two two ago are now closed. Many people I know left the capital city. And there's something very important also, it's the defiance. When people answer your questions, I mean, you have this feeling that the population doesn't know which way to turn to, which way it's going to go, and people don't dare talk to you because they are afraid of retaliation in the coming month.
Well, the government says, and the president claims, that fighters from inside and outside of Somalia are trying to topple the country, and he points the finger at Al-Qaeda.
Well, this is a presence which is not visible. We have lots of witnesses, but no one has seen foreign guerrillas. Some people say that they have seen foreigners in some boroughs. Their face is hidden, but the way they behave, they walk, they don't walk like Somalis. They have bare arms. They have seen white people in Mogadishu. So it's many differences according to the figures from the government or from the soldier of the African Union peacekeepers. 300, 500, 1,000 people who are coming to fight with the radical Islamists in Mogadishu. What is for sure is that the president, who was part and parcel of those Islamists, says today that there are members of Al-Qaeda in the capital city of Somalia, that there are troops that are supported from Eritrea, and that there is a front, that Al-Qaeda would like to open a third front in Somalia after Iraq and Afghanistan to fragilize the surrounding countries, Ethiopia and Kenya, and launch an offensive in Africa.
Just very briefly, because all of this obviously paints a very bleak picture for the future of Somalia. Will there ever be peace anytime soon?
What is for sure that the major part of the population, those who can talk to, are tired, sick and tired of this war. The survivors are telling you, look, it's been 20 years we're at war. We are tired of that. The hope for peace is not for tomorrow. I mean, the clans have to agree among themselves, and we should have a peacekeeping force there to support a government long enough so that the institution could be rebuilt, and it's going to take time.
All right, Frank Barrier, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and thank you for watching us. Stay with us here on France 24. We'll bring you another Reporters next time.